Okay. Welcome to Buffalo Plus, my Catalana, Dan Fetes. I'm Jenna Cottrell. Work from home edition once again. Welcome. We're going to be talking
No hoodie.
No hoodie.
No hoodie.
I saw there was the over-under on if there'd be a hoodie and a sport coat.
Now, see, I
No
go
hoodie.
with the more seasoned approach. It's a sort of like a zip sweater. It's not
quarter
the hoodie.
zip.
Yeah, it's like
Ooh,
a quarter zip I used for the game. May even break one of that out this week.
I think it's a
do
great
hoodie.
look.
I can't do hoodie sport coat. I'm too old. I
Yeah,
admit.
know your lane.
know.
Stay in your lane.
But the other worked, and I got Dan's seal of approval last week.
Great look.
So, yeah.
It is a
We'll
good look.
see.
I do the business on top, sweatpants on the bottom.
The Jenna look.
The Jenna look, exactly. Really good comments to start off. Bullseye saying I am almost healed from last week. I know
Oof.
a lot of Bills fans.
Don't tell Jordan Poyer that. We'll get to that in the
would
show.
say,
Yeah.
We're going to talk about everything. This is an airing of grievances. there's
Safe space, guys. Safe space.
It's a safe space for everyone. And we're going to talk about Mike White.
Yeah.
A little QB controversy.
I find this to be fascinating. This is fun.
Yeah.
This is a fun way to look at the position. And I like that the Jets, even in this moment where a guy's playing, well, I'll get to it, but where a guy's playing well and they draft another guy, it's causing them angst. And I kind of love that. So,
That's funny.
yeah.
Also, this is once again going to be a little bit of the behind the scenes Buffalo Plus for everyone involved. So, yeah.
Well, I can explain just very quickly. A version of this show airs on Sunday morning on Fox Rochester and Fox in Buffalo. So they take this show, put it together, and it runs. So it runs as a TV show. So
yes.
So we let you in on a little bit of that stuff.
Yeah, the fun that goes on.
Yeah,
and the panic. Fun.
Hey,
for some people.
We don't panic as much as the Bills did in Jacksonville. Oh, did I just say that?
Was it panic?
Oh, they panicked in that second half
was
against the Jags.
I know. That game 9-6. Just
Jenna, I didn't think we could see a worse game than we saw in the playoff game.
I was actually thinking of that. I was like, this has shades of that playoff game.
My thoughts and prayers went out to Bills Mafia members that traveled from beautiful Western New York in the fall weather to a cold, rainy Jacksonville and then got to see that game.
Yeah.
Thoughts and prayers.
And
T's and P's.
My thoughts with him on having to go to Jacksonville. But that's just my 2 cents.
All right, we're about to start the show. It's 6:59. Okay. And so many buttons I have to hit at the same time.
Oh, look at
you. So when's it going to be 7 o'clock? What do you think? Over, under? 10, 9, 8.
I can roll the open, Jenna, if you want.
Yeah, if you wouldn't mind.
All
just
right.
right at 7.
There we go.
Buffalo Plus, your interactive look at the week in football, brought to you by Connors and Ferris.
All right, welcome into Buffalo Plus, presented by Connors and Ferris. Mike Catalana, Dan Fetes, Jenna Cottrell. We are getting you ready. The Bills taking on the Jets this upcoming weekend. Buffalo 5-3, the Jets 2-6. But a lot to break down because these two teams, they know each other well, but it's been a rough stretch for Bills fans after that loss in Jacksonville. Mike, I want your take right out the gate because we saw an ugly, ugly loss in Jacksonville. Is this team over that?
All right, let's start with this. Dan and I go down there. Miserable, pouring rain on Saturday where it was in the 40s. Brutal. Monday, flight canceled. We had to get another flight. We had to wait in the airport 5 hours. And all of that was a picnic compared to watching that disaster that we saw on Sunday. I say the worst loss of the McDermott era, and I don't even think it's close. Don't give me the New Orleans game in 17. Don't give me the Chargers game, the Peterman 500. Don't give me any of those. This is a very, very good team that didn't play down to the level of the opponent. They played 2 levels beneath the Jags. and it was awful, and it was an alarming game. And are they over it? They better be over it, because they can't ever put an effort out on the field like they did on Sunday.
Well, and I think their practice showed this week, guys. I think, I had tweeted too that you went through this practice, and Jen and I were there this week on Wednesday, and there was no dancing. Look, that's not a knock, and people said, good, finally, no dancing. Look, they didn't win or lose games whether or not they danced. There was just a different feel. Like right now, this video, normally the cornerbacks are making fun of Josh Allen throwing into the nets. They're joking around. There was none of that this week. A very business-like feel. And the team has said they had moved on from Jacksonville and that they're ready to move on. And they have this 24-hour rule. And Jordan Poyer, at his press conference availability this week, we asked him, was this a turning point in Jacksonville? Could this be a turning point in the season? All of those things. And you know what? He was pretty honest about his answer about all of the game.
That was like I said, I don't really want to get too much into Sunday's game. You guys talk about Sunday's game I think way too much. We're trying to move on, and you guys keep bringing up Sunday's game, but at the same time, we're moved on from it, and that's just what it is. I'm gonna keep having that same answer. That's just my answer for that.
Love it.
It's your fault.
That's just my answer. It's your fault, Jenna. It's your fault, Mike.
We're talking about it too much.
Yeah.
I know. That's absurd though, because considering the level of this team and where they want to go and what the expectations are, I just think, look, they had that bad loss, Mike. They know their feelings are hurt.
Yeah,
their feelings are hurt.
This is like the conversation you have with your spouse, your girlfriend, boyfriend, whoever it is, where you're in the wrong and you're like, do we have to keep talking about this? Right? That's what they're saying. No, they don't want to hear about it anymore. And honestly, I don't really want to talk about it. We wanted to give them the opportunity maybe to vent a little bit, to find out what they're thinking going forward. They should try to move past it. But Dan, it's not just moving past it. What did we say? They have to fix it and then forget about it. They got to fix issues that they had.
Well, I think Poyer's crankiness was a little bit of an embarrassment. Mike, like to your point, Jenna, I thought this week you had the best analogy that you said it's kind of like when you trip, right?
Yeah, like when you trip in front of your friends and they all think it's hilarious, and you're like, "Okay, guys, it wasn't that funny," but they're like dying laughing. You're like, "All right, your
like, I didn't trip. Like watch out for that spot. I didn't trip. Like relax."
Exactly.
And we know Jenna well enough. That's happened to you a few times, hasn't it?
I fall upstairs, I fall downstairs, Mike. But you mentioned fixing some of those problems, and Dan, we know you love to talk about the run game, but this is an actual issue that this Bills team has in the efficiency.
Hallelujah. They finally realized it, right? McDermott, you could see it in his face this week. We're going to hear from him in a second. He is a guy who is old school. He's adapted. He's learned that you got to throw the ball, turn it over to the quarterback, all those things. At his core, he is run the ball, play defense, head coach. Now, again, I give him credit for adapting, but he wants a team that can be physical and run the football. Here's what he said.
Well, I don't think it's just been Sal the last couple of games. Start the first game. Look at that film. So go back to last year at the end of the season in particular. So yeah, that's where we're at. I can promise you that adjustments are being made. And like I said earlier, whether you see them or not, that's what good teams do.
He has been dying to say that. Now, look, Brandon Staley is a 17-year-old head coach of the Chargers, right?
Yes.
And he has a great soundbite, if you're ever on social media, where he talks about what the running game does. And I thought it was interesting. He talked about the physicality of running the football. And while football teams need that, and he said, it doesn't mean you're a running team, but when you run the ball, it takes all 11 guys. It takes that sort of commitment. He goes, you can throw the ball sometimes, and it really is quarterback makes a move, guy beats his guy, there you go. Not that it doesn't take 11, but you get the idea.
Yeah.
And he talked about his team, even knowing when you can and need to run the ball, and there's a certain vibe I think they get from that. The Bills are not a physical team. Dan, you were on the sidelines in that game. Jacksonville punched them in the mouth in the beginning, taunted them a little bit physically, got them out of their game. I'm not saying that all gets fixed with the running game, but the Bills are kind of a finesse team, and it shows up.
Yeah, and you know what? This goes back to they have gotten – nothing has changed from the start of last year to this year. And you heard McDermott say that. What was really telling is that while Josh wouldn't divulge into it and Sean wouldn't get into the strategy of it as he's the buttoned-up coach, that was probably the most he had said, where he said there are things that you need to do fundamentally to be a successful football team. The person that gave the most insight this week was actually Jordan Poyer, who didn't know he was giving the insight he was giving. He was asked after practice on Wednesday about what it's like preparing for a team that can't run the ball. And he was like, oh, it's so much easier knowing that, you make a team you make a team play left-handed. Like you can take away. And he goes, when you don't have to do that, the safeties can stay higher. They don't need to pinch down in the box. It goes a whole bunch into that. We all kind of sat there and like giggled. And he was like, well, there's not one team in the NFL that just comes out and throws it 50 times. And we're like, there kind of is one, Jordan. And you're playing on that team. It was very telling. And I go, again, I'm not one of those guys. It does come down to effectiveness. It does come down to a physical style. We've heard John Feliciano and Deion Dawkins say, like, they want to hit somebody sometimes.
Yeah.
Just to get that, like you said. And I think when you can't run, it goes to the opposite side too. When you're a defender and you can't stop the run, it like hurts your pride and your ego. When you can't run the ball and get a yard as an offensive lineman, that hurts your ego and your pride as a football player.
Yeah. And Jenna, I think part of it is it's not a matter of they choose not to because they're so good at throwing it. Yeah, they can throw it. They can't do it. They're not good at it. The offensive line is bad. Cody Ford, I know he's been moved around. I know there's been a lot of things. It's not all. It's easy to pick the one guy. Yeah. But he hasn't been good. That line was bad. And I don't think the Bills have a back who makes up for an average or bad run blocking offensive line. They don't have that guy that's a make you miss. And even if they have some of that, it's not enough to make up for it. They're not designed to do this, but maybe they need a little bit of that mindset and it'll help open things up. To Dan's point, what Poyer said, let's get those safeties back in the box a little bit and away from Stephon Diggs.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think when you're one-dimensional in the NFL, you're not going to be as efficient. And we talked about this, if things were to stall out, how that would change. But we'll talk about, on the other side of the ball in terms of defending the pass and coming up. We also talk about Mike White, the Jets quarterback, the quarterback controversy we could have in New York, and what stands out about Mike White. We'll have that coming up.
Yeah. I say Rick Beam is always right, says, I promise Daboll's going to run the ball so much just to prove a point that it's not his play calling. That's I don't believe what it is. I think Daboll wants to throw the ball a lot. I think he knows that strength of this team. But at any point, maybe, Dan, there's just a little bit of a reset where you start to find things because teams have changed. I say, watch the Bills a lot last year. They know what makes them tick, and they start to take away those things. Somebody was saying today about checkdowns. That whole game was checkdowns.
Yeah.
Josh was dumping the ball to Singletary and to Beasley, and, that was what the game was because Jacksonville was playing them high and not letting them get deep.
Right, Mike, but that's what a lot of teams are that have done pretty much this year. They have made Josh Allen consistently take checkdowns. They've kept two high safeties. Again, they don't talk a whole lot about it, but they always talk about they're playing a cover two shell and then like man underneath, which means their two safeties each have half of the field and they're both about 25 yards beyond the line of scrimmage. So that if Stephon Diggs gets past his corner, there's another guy waiting for him. Yeah. Like, I'm not an X's and O's all 22 guy, but it's just the simple fact of they're not saying you're not going to beat us over the top. And they're going to try and make Josh be patient. They're going to try and make him make 8 check down throws to get down the field. And Josh is a guy going all the way back to his Wyoming days. He wants the touchdown. Yeah. He wants the big throw. And you have to be boring.
Jenna, go back to the Chiefs game last year, the regular season game, where the Bills played daring the Chiefs to run it. And what'd they do?
They ran
They
it.
ran it.
Yeah.
They basically, I told you that game, they kind of let Mahomes take the week off. And they
Yeah.
did it effectively, won the game, moved on, and then Kansas City went right back to throwing the ball all over everybody, at least until, they got to the Super Bowl. So, look at this. Brian Houseman. Hey.
Hello. Love that. I will
See,
get to see
Brian
the
Houseman.
legendary Mike White
Yes.
play in person.
He is a Jets fan. Spent some time as a player in the NFL. At least that's the story we used to tell. Brian Houseman, yes.
Yeah.
We
No.
get to see Mike White in person.
I was to say, I just think it's so funny because we've had so many discussions on Buffalo Plus about, especially going back to last year, of being able to run the ball. Obviously, we know, Dan, you are a fan of having the offense go through Josh Allen. Of course, I get that. He's your strong arm, talented 6'5" quarterback, but I feel like those issues that we saw traces of last year, you're seeing that again this year. And the fact that Sean McDermott was so candid during his press conference, like, you can tell, we know McDermott knows, he's, like Dan said in an earlier Buffalo Plus video, like, he can be guarded with the media. You know that he knew what he was doing. He knows what he's doing. He's using the media as that piece. And I just think that's so interesting. And he talked about having the honest conversations that needed to be had were being had.
And I'll say this as we move on, as we get ready for the next block of the TV show recording. I went back, and again, Emmanuel Sanders had more great things today. Thursday during his media availability, he has so much wisdom and carries so much respect as the locker room that he goes into. But he had kind of talks about that, like he said, it's a cliche, but when it comes through him, it doesn't sound like cliche. But he says you either lose or you learn, and he says this could be the moment that they learned what they want to be. He said how they see a bigger picture. And I went back to what he said after the Pittsburgh loss, where he's like, it's the roller coaster. And listen, I'm on the sidelines for the Jacksonville, and it's McDermott, you stink. Fire Dable.
Yeah.
Josh isn't good. Why isn't anything working? And it's like, holy cow. Like, 1 second. And as I went back to what Emmanuel Sanders said, where he goes, when you lose in the NFL, you feel like you're never going to win again. And when you win in the NFL, you feel like you're never going to lose again. And then he goes, people think we don't got it when the Bills lose. And when we win, we're the greatest thing since milk was invented.
So I get that sentiment completely, but I feel like the way this team has been winning in some of the wins, like even like Miami last week or 2 weeks ago, where it was so bad in the first half, I feel like people were like,
Yeah. Yeah,
Right.
this didn't drop out of the sky. Yes, that
Exactly.
bad dropped out of the sky. I mean, it was Jacksonville, but yes.
Yeah.
All right,
This
Jenna, you're
game
in charge.
This
Okay.
game would have felt different. One last thing. As I was telling Jenna on the drive up on Wednesday, this game would have felt different if Josh put one drive together at the end of the fourth quarter and they won. And we said, hey, it's not great, but they're winning. I just think this is a little bit of an overreaction of a bad loss. It was a very bad loss, but I'm not going to be the one to say this team stinks, blow it up. They can't do anything.
Okay. No one's saying this blow it up. No one's saying that, but I do want on the record that Dan is not overreacting, because I feel like if anyone on this podcast is going to overreact, it might be Mr. Freights, which I did refer to Dan as Dan Freights the other day. Okay. All right. Gentlemen, we have 4 minutes. Just a reminder. Okay. Sorry. TV time. All right. In 3. Oh, I shouldn't say 3, 2, 1. Okay. Sorry. Check out that outtakes video if you are in need of a laugh. Okay. All right. I can't not say 3, 2, 1. 3, 2, 1. Welcome back to Buffalo Plus, presented by Connors and Ferris. Let's look at this matchup. The Bills heading out to face off against the Jets. Of course, this is an opponent that the Bills are very familiar with. But Mike White, electrifying this Jets offense. What have you seen from him? And this is a guy that stories, he's been cut. He was drafted by Dallas. He was on the practice squad. He was a backup, and now he's getting his time.
Well, there's an old saying about, or stories about Kurt Warner. Now, I'm not saying he's Kurt Warner, but the idea of Kurt Warner was, he had been on different teams, and then he was on practice squads, and then he got left open to the expansion draft. Like anybody could have had him. And it was so bad when the Chiefs or when the Rams quarterback got injured,
Trent Green,
that Dick Vermeil, love Dick Vermeil, but he cries at everything. But he's literally crying at the news conference saying, and then he's like, we're going to play Kurt Warner and we're going to fight. And everybody's like, who's Kurt Warner? Because they didn't know what they had in Kurt Warner, right? The Jets didn't know if they had anything in Mike White, and they may still realize they don't have anything in Mike White. But the idea was, they drafted, not even talking about drafting a guy. They just traded 2 weeks ago. They just traded for Joe Flacco to come back and to be on the team. They didn't need another quarterback. They had no idea. The guy goes out in his first game as a starter, he throws for 400 yards. They put his jersey in the Hall of Fame. I mean, he's a guy that, Dan, what I'm saying about him is in this very short window, he's got to try to prove in hyperspeed that he can be a guy in the league. Maybe not for the Jets because it's not enough. Right. I mean, they drafted a guy number 2, and so far he's off to a pretty good start with that.
Yeah, he's a dangerous guy in the sense of he has nothing to lose. There were very low expectations. And, you dig up old tweets about him saying that he was going to beat Peyton Manning's passing record, and he's on pace after a game and a half. This is incredible. It's a great story. He's a dangerous guy in the sense, I always go back to one of my favorite football movies is The Replacements. There's no tomorrow for this guy. He's not the future in New York, at least not right now. And Robert Saleh, of the Jets head coach, had this to say about what makes him so special.
I think it's going to happen organically. It'll never, if Mike does phenomenal like we think he's going to do, that's not weird. That's awesome to me. And in the sense that it's quarterback is a precious commodity in this league, and we feel like we've got 4 really good ones. So, so it's, to answer your question, I think it'll all take care of itself. Just got to let it play out.
He's a dangerous guy.
By the way, he said they have 4 great ones.
Yeah.
If you have 2 quarterbacks, you have none. If you have 4, you really have none. Yeah.
Jets are feeling it a little bit. Look, the guy gets rid of the ball. Like if you just watch him and you said he was the number 2 pick in the draft, only after a game and a half, you'd be like, wow.
Yeah.
But he's not. He's a 5th rounder, bounced around. I mean, his transaction wire is hilarious. It's cut, practice squad, back off, back on. Like all these times when you go to the practice squad, you're available to other teams and nobody's even looking at him. And the Cowboys signed like Ben DiNucci, right? when they had him. So he may just go back into the wilderness here at some point, but he's dangerous, right?
Yeah.
Yep. He's that guy. He's got something to prove. And I spoke with Dan Leberfeld, who is a reporter, covered the Jets for a long time. He is also on Sirius XM with Vic Carucci on Saturdays. They do their press coverage show. And I asked him about the idea of, putting your quarterback on the bench, your second pick, or even now when he's healthy and ready to come back, or playing this guy, Mike White. Here's what he had to say.
This kind of came out of left field. So it's easy for people like us in the media or sports writers to say, just put Zach Wilson back in. How do you do that based on what Mike White did? It's not an easy situation as far as what they're going to do in 2, 3, 4 weeks. It's a good one potentially down the road, but right now it could cause a major quarterback controversy in a market, New York City, that loves that story.
They certainly love controversy in New York. All right. And coming up, it's time for our favorite segment, Mike Drop. We'll have Mike's take on the crossroads in the AFC, where teams are at and what it means for the Bills. Could you hear that?
Very clearly.
Mine.
Oh, it was an autoplay ad on ESPN.
The worst.
The worst. Wow, the timing of it was better.
Chris,
let's see what kind of comment.
Said he had one game and he's dangerous. Yeah, Chris,
he's dangerous because you only are worried about him this week.
Because again, he is going to go out throwing 4 touchdowns or 4 interceptions, and he doesn't really care which one it is.
And the other part is, look, if they're playing Zach Wilson this week, the Bills defense would handle him. I really believe it. He's not ready yet. If you look at the interview with Dan Leberfeld, he went into the whole thing about, the way Zach Wilson played at BYU, and they had a mixed up schedule and played against some really bad teams. He's talented, but he's got a long way to go to be ready to play. This guy has been in the league at least. He was in the same draft as Josh Allen, but he went in the 5th round.
Yeah.
And so he's been around. He's been on NFL rosters. He's been at practice. And he knows, I got my shot. Now, the Bills may just send him back by, what's his name from Washington?
Tyler Heineke.
Yeah.
Taylor Heineke.
Taylor Heineke, like that kind of thing. And I do think the Bills defense should be able to it. But this guy, there's something he's got going. And the other thing he's got MetLife Stadium behind him. Because right now those fans are like, we love this guy.
Yeah.
So let's see what he does.
I was going to say, too, when we talk to like Jordan Poyer and other guys just about the difficulty of game planning for a guy that you're not familiar with, there's not a lot of tape. And he's someone who's, finally getting a shot. I mean, Jordan Poyer even talked about how that story resonated with him and how hungry that makes you because Jets had Titans and Bengals number.
Keep that in mind. Now he beat the Bengals.
Beginner's luck from Mike White.
He might be right.
Yeah. But when is the beginner's luck run out? Because you're hoping it was with, in Indianapolis.
If you're the Bengals, you're sitting there going, we got Mike White this week. And he throws for 400 yards. I'm just saying he's sort of an unknown. It kind of reminds me a little of Romo.
Yeah, no, that's what I thought. No,
what are you laughing at?
No, a comment. It's not appropriate. I'm not going to read it.
Yeah, I know the comment you're talking about. We'll just slide on past it. But I'm glad that Jenna's 12 years old and can laugh about one.
Okay, it just took me off guard.
No, but Mike, that's funny because I thought about the same thing with Romo. Now, granted, he was maybe a little bit. Was Romo a 3rd round pick out of Eastern Illinois? He was undrafted?
Yeah.
And like I said, it's just he comes
I remember the Monday night game when they benched Bledsoe and they put him in there.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, I don't know. It's the dangers in this respect of it's almost like he's too dumb and naive to know that he shouldn't be good.
Don't say dumb.
Well, I know what you mean. He's not dumb. He's a smart guy. He's just
Western Kentucky.
I'm just saying.
No, I'm just saying Western Kentucky University. I know his education. That's all I'm saying. I know he went to college.
Hey, you got 3 communications majors here. So what do we know?
It's a Fredonia jersey that hangs behind me. It's not. This isn't Colgate.
Didn't even buy a textbook for our major.
It's a state school.
Oh,
wait a minute. Hold on. They had textbooks for communication?
Well, not a stone tablet.
Oh,
so
look at that.
You walked into that one.
It took her 20 minutes.
It's an abacus.
Wow. And Dan, by the way, to talk a little more inside baseball, you have Greg going into this, his thoughts on the game, because I'll be doing my bit.
Okay.
Yes.
How's
okay.
That
6 minutes, please.
Okay.
All right. All right, 3, 2. Welcome back to Buffalo Plus, presented by Connors and Ferris. Mike, it's time for our mic drop segment. But when we take a look at where we're at in the league, we're about halfway through the season. There's 5 teams in the AFC. Excuse me. There's 9 teams in the AFC, all with 5 wins now heading into this week.
All right, I'm going to keep going with you. You were getting closer. It's 11 teams out of the 16. Sorry. Yes, you're right, though. It's 11 out of the 16 that have at least 5 wins. So basically, what has the first half of the season told us? Nothing yet. It's wide open. Now, normally when it's wide open this way, there's 1 or 2 teams that have separated. I did want to make this point about where the Bills are. You're disappointed. Sean McDermott's disappointed. The players are. They're 5-3. They feel like they should be 7-1 or 8-0, right? I mean, it could have been. You look at the way they've played in these games. But here's the reality. No one is running away from things either. Everything is still right in front of them. The AFC race is wide open right now. The Titans look good, but they don't have Derrick Henry. Baltimore can be up and down. We thought the Chargers were going to be special. They're good. Kansas City's trying to figure out what they are, which is a strange thing. Yeah, New England, right? They're hovering right behind them. Cleveland, when they're playing their brand of football, they're good. The whole AFC West is good. So here's my point on everything right now. The Bills have an opportunity to look at this game, this loss to the Jags, as was mentioned earlier, as a point where you turn things around. Every season, runs into this. It's happened to the Bills in the past before, where there's been that game where things are going the wrong way. And I even think they had one a year ago, and I think they had it in the same place they're going to be on Sunday. They had lost on the road on a Tuesday night to Tennessee.
Mhm.
And then they lost on a Monday at happy hour to Kansas City. And the next week they went down to MetLife to play a bad Jets team, and they didn't score a touchdown. 6 field goals it took. But they fought. They hung in there, and unlike last week, they found a way to win. And from that moment on, the Bills played great football. You would have thought it would have been after the back-to-back losses, but they were that close to losing 3 in a row, and they found a way to get it going forward. I think this Jacksonville game can be that tipping point for them where they turn it around. This is where you take the field with excitement. You don't worry about putting on a show. You just worry about being better than your opponent and playing that way. And to what Dan said earlier, cut the dancing, do that. Take things a little bit differently. Some things may need to change, even if it's temporary for them. I think that game last week can be that for the Bills. We've seen it happen to Bills teams in the past. Maybe it is this week.
Well, and I was thinking about this, Mike, when we were talking earlier today, just about the fact of the mic drop and what it was going to be and what it entailed. This game in Jacksonville was the first game, like you talked about, the worst loss in the Sean McDermott era. This is the first time really since last season, the beginning of last season, where this team's faced real adversity. Yep. I'm talking about like not made up adversity, not like what's going on. Like all of a sudden we're this last few weeks we've been asking about, hey, is Stephon Diggs getting the ball enough? Is Cole Beasley getting the ball enough?
Yeah.
What is going on here? All of a sudden it's like, hey, the defense, you guys feel pretty good about giving up 9 points. What about the offense? Like all of a sudden there are real things that are popping up. And this is the first time. I'm not talking about losing at home to Kansas City or getting blown out in Nashville or losing on a Hail Murray. Like this is the first time that this team, since they've become a real contender in the conference, that they have faced adversity. And I'm excited to see how they come out of this. And Mike, to your point to that game that they had last year where they kicked the 6 field goals, that was the game where they only gave up like 9 yards of offense in the second half.
Yep.
To Darnold and Gay. So I remember that game, whereas the defense just came out with their ears on fire.
Yeah. I feel like that game in Jacksonville, it should be the wake-up call, but if that is not the wake-up call, then there are bad things on the horizon then going forward. But for this Bills team, we've always talked about the point of maturity and how we've been impressed by the veteran leadership on this team. And I think that more button-up approach during practice this week, I feel like that's reflected in that. Then you want to see the results in that game, in the game coming up. And Dan, we know that there's someone that has an opinion about what that will be coming up.
Shout out to our sponsors, Connors and Ferris, who's sponsoring the Buffalo Plus YouTube channel. We really appreciate their help. And every week, Greg Connors gives his opinion on what he thinks he's going to see this week. And here's what he had to say heading down to the Meadowlands.
I don't have that same confidence of the Bills actually putting the ball in the end zone to get the points they need in order to make those big breakout wins, which is what their hallmark was last year. And so, I'm thinking right now, I think it's going to be 17-10. I do think the defense is playing fantastic. I don't think they give the Jets more than 10 points, again, unless there's turnovers in their own zone, and then you never know what's going to happen.
That's a good point, because those turnovers.
Yeah. And I think Greg is where a lot of fans are. I mean, the last 2 weeks, I've had the Bills putting up 30 plus. I'm just, almost dialed in. 30 to what? Like we got used to that.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel like that. Now they could go down there and do that. It just at the moment doesn't feel like it because we got so used to that offense that just moved up and down the field almost at will last year. So it's a different mindset, I think, for this team and even for the fan base where, it's a change. There's no doubt. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I don't think they should give up a little bit of that swagger, that attitude. I think they still need that, but maybe this is a week to remind everybody it's about just going down there and taking care of business, getting a win, and then moving on from there.
Yeah, and coming up, we'll have our picks and predictions for the games the Bills face off against the New York Jets.
Let's check some of the comments here.
Well, I got to give the one right away. Slightly sarcastic, but I have to bring it up. Ian Gallagher, guys, future Hall of Famer Spencer Brown is back. The offensive line will click now. Everybody breathe. Great comment by Ian. Hand up. We're best friends. But yeah, no, I think, Mike, I know we had talked about it on the way home from Jacksonville while we had our 5-hour layover, which was just so much fun in the Reagan Airport. Just great time.
Yeah, not really.
I think that getting Cody Ford back on the sidelines greatly improves the Bills' offensive line. That's literally addition by subtraction. And while you said John Feliciano and Spencer Brown are not going to make them an all-pro offensive line, it's better to live with the devil that you know than the devil that you don't. And the fact of that Cody Ford I said when we went down to Jacksonville, that was his make or break game. That was his third, fourth chance.
Yeah.
And he's bust. Like we can put the bust on him and move on and say that Bean swung and missed on a second-round pick.
Hey, you guys know we all are big fans of Bean, what he's done for this franchise. But offensive line is not the place. This offensive line, and it happens in a week when Wyatt Teller's getting paid because he might
had to go there.
Well, there's a guy you gave up on and traded. And please don't give me this. You used one of the picks to get Diggs. It was a 5th-round pick. You can find a 5th-round pick. If they knew Wyatt Teller was good, first of all, if Cleveland knew he was that good, they would have given up more to get him. But
yeah,
he's been really good. The Bills have not put the resources in on the offensive line. They just haven't. And Dion hasn't been Dion this year. He had COVID, and I don't know if he's been the same. And this whole offensive line has struggled. So, yes, having Cody Ford out and getting these guys back, I think will be big. But they got some major moves to make in the offseason. I wish they would have done more during the year.
To this comment by John Yachties, no, 1,000% no. Brian Daboll is still a top of the line offensive coordinator and play caller. Yeah. I think that it's the easy thing to say is that it's bad play calling, but you can look at where Josh has no time to throw. The offensive line's a mess. You can Daboll only calls the plays, guys. It doesn't go much after that. He's not the screenshot that I tweeted out about 3 guys blocking one Jaguars defensive lineman while another one runs free at Josh. Brian Daboll wasn't teaching that at practice all week. Okay. Pump the brakes on fire, and move on from Brian Daboll. It's just not going to happen.
Where's Gabe Davis?
He had a drop in that game.
Yep.
I'm
so
disappointed.
Did Beasley too.
Yeah, I'm disappointed by. Well, actually, Mike, I loved your comment of it'd be great if Stephon Diggs was playing in this game because.
But now it's interesting. So I mentioned this on the newscast today. I looked down at the numbers. Diggs was in Diggs' targets from last year's first 8 games to this year's first 8 games. He has 6 less targets, 6 less catches, same amount of touchdowns. He does have 100 less yards.
Wow.
But now keep in mind, he had a good first half. He had a great second half, closed it out with that monster game, the 3 touchdowns, all pro year. He's on pace for 1,000 yards. He's got to be more than that for this offense. Yeah. And I think he's had one 100-yard game, but the targets are pretty close. Now, I think the difference is that's numbers. A lot of those targets last year were down the field.
Yeah.
And that's maybe where the biggest difference is.
Well, we even at practice, is it hard? Dan asked about, is it hard staying patient and taking those checkdowns and taking everything underneath? And then, it was asked to Diggs, is that hard? And Diggs was like, yeah, we want to make big plays. And that's what you brought in Stephon Diggs to do. So I think.
See, it's the perception.
It is.
And I'm not picking on our viewer here. I'm saying it felt like it. And I think it's because it's not down the field. Yeah. And now, real quick, we all know, but if you can't block, you can't protect, you don't give your quarterback enough time. To get the ball down the field. And,
true.
And some
teams,
of that defenses smell blood, and they attacked Josh in that game.
Yeah.
Well, and it wasn't only that, but I thought Mitch Morse had a great comment after the game that the O-line was really bad early. And then people were saying that Josh was fleeing the pocket when the pocket was clean actually later in the game. And Mitch Morse is like, yeah, that's natural. If I was a quarterback and got hit 3-4 times at the start of the game, I wouldn't trust what I'm seeing. So then Josh goes to hero Josh and doesn't trust the offensive line. And it goes to all of that. So,
it happens to all of them. I'm telling you, you said, look at Mahomes this year. He's made some ridiculous attempts and for picks. Because they didn't have the O-line. They were not running up and down the field like they've been doing.
I agree with this. And this goes back to the point that Jenna, I've always talked to us about, was just the fact of taking the cheese, taking the play in front of you until it opens up. Be boring, and then you catch a defense sleeping. I think that's a great point by Jay to say you can't make big plays. Big plays come to you. Like, again, or you throw the ball, it's a 2-yard completion to Diggs, and he breaks it for 20. Like, you don't need to sit in the pocket. Yeah, you don't need to sit in the pocket for 15 seconds to try and find somebody that's 20 yards down the field.
No, I agree.
All right.
It's just frustrating because we saw what this offense could do last year.
Well, and let me tell you something. We could be talking in 3 weeks that this offense got it together, and because they've got the talent to
and this was an overreaction, according to Dan, which would make sense if the offense was able to turn a page.
Yeah, well, let's see.
Josh shouldn't be throwing 40-plus times per game. That's not a winning formula. Charles, no offense, it won all last year. It won them a ton of games.
And they can't run the ball.
I was going to say, what are you going to have them try and run the ball?
I know that was me last year. I know it's not a favorable comment, but that is what it is. And when Josh throws for 300 yards, the Bills are undefeated.
And they have tried to run it. They have tried to run it. And they cannot, they just don't do it. And they're a lousy screen team because they're not an athletic offensive line. They don't get out in front. I agree. Yeah, get a running game going. It'll do it. They can't run the ball.
We got our first Antonio Williams comment of the year. It's been a while.
You know what? I'm telling you, don't be stunned if they make some sort of a move this week in the backfield just to say we're going to give somebody a shot, though we don't know yet about Moss.
All right.
Yes.
Right?
He was limited at practice on Thursday.
All right, Jenna, you're in charge.
How much time we got left?
Oh, no, you're going to ask her to do math.
No. We have 2. I know the real number. I'm trying to tell you the number I should tell you because you guys always go over. So I'm going to tell you 225.
Jenna's Jenna's getting used to men who don't stop talking.
I'm still very new to this. Okay. All right. Let me jump back. Okay. And if you see me go like this, everyone, that means Mike, stop talking.
Why don't you just go like this?
Okay. All right. Dan, you have best bets?
Yep.
All right. In 3, 2. Welcome back to Buffalo Plus. All right, we'll get into our picks and predictions in a bit. But first, let's start off with Dan Fetes because he wants to win you money.
Yeah, and I've been awful this year at doing that. Hand up. I've been great the last 3 years, over 53%. Been a bad year, so I went back to the old trusty notepad this week to try and find some stats and shake it up. I like the Raiders as a home underdog, getting 2.5 points against the Kansas City Chiefs. I'm just going to start fading the Chiefs. They're not very good at covering. 2-11 against the spread in their last 13. 1-10 against the spread in their last 11 division games. The Raiders coming off a bad loss to the Giants. I think they get back on track. I like them here getting 2.5 points.
All right, what is your prediction for the game?
Bills big. I really think they bounce back. I think it was a little bit of an overreaction. I think the team got back to work. I like them to, again, score 30-plus points in this one. 31-17. I think Mike White makes things maybe interesting early, but I think the Bills defense feeds off some success that the Bills offense will get this week. We'll all forget about the Jacksonville game and move on. 31-17.
Yeah, so I have the Bills also winning this one, but I feel like my confidence is a little shaken with the way that they came out in last week and even going back to that Miami game. Like I said, I wanted to see this Bills team play a complete game. I feel like we haven't seen that as of late, obviously. So I have them, though, winning this game 24-17. I think Mike White puts on a couple touchdowns, a couple shows, but I think this Bills defense is too good. And then going off of that, I think this Bills offense will get into a rhythm. I think there's been the panic mode. Now there's also going to be the reset. I think this team came together this week. They feel focused. there was no dancing. It was business time, and I think the final score will reflect that Sunday. Mike, what about you?
Yeah, I wanted to so badly pick 38-13, which is what I picked the last 2 weeks. Obviously, that failed, though they did somehow cover the Miami game. I don't have confidence in the offense right now, but I think they'll start to get it right. I think we'll feel a lot better about the way they're playing, but I think it's going to be a close one for a while. I think MetLife Stadium, there's reason for optimism. At least they see some things with the Jets. Their defense is bad. If they don't get to the quarterback, they can't cover you and me. So I think if the Bills can get any protection for Josh, he can light them up. That might get the confidence going. I have the Bills winning the game 27-20. I got that on the back end cover for the Jets getting a late touchdown, but I think the Bills win it by 7.
All right. Well, there's our picks. Thank you so much for joining us. Be sure to check out buffaloplus.com as well as our YouTube channel. For Mike Catalana, Dan Fetes, I'm Jenna Cottrell. Thank you for watching Buffalo Plus. Mike,
Did we make
you
it?
not see me doing this?
Did we make it?
I am going to end the broadcast. Or should we end the broadcast?
I mean, I know we're
Yeah,
still
we can
live.
So here's what I'm going to
okay.
say. You were right, but I figured since you went so long on your pick, twice as long as Dan, I thought Jess fill in some time here.
No, I just
Dan?
felt like I didn't talk that much, so I wanted
Dan?
to do my thing.
You went
gave the-
on and on and on and on.
I was doing it.
Wait a minute. We were fine, right? Uh-oh.
Oh,
We
she
cut her
muted
off.
herself. You
She
muted
muted-
yourself. Jenna's
See?
muted.
See?
Jenna, you muted your mic.
You mute. See?
I was
You
gonna
should have done that to my mic.
Do-
You were just going on and on. I was like, oh, there she goes.
No, I felt like I didn't talk this entire show, so I said my piece.
Well, you were busy running the whole thing.
Next time, I'm gonna have you time the show, and you'll just be sweating the entire show.
Nah, I'll just edit you guys out.
That's actually not
Ah.
true. Okay.
You got any more comments on here?
Let's
Anybody
see.
good?
This is like every work Zoom meeting.
That is good. Shout out Atlas King.
That is incredible. Yeah. What are some of everyone's Bills picks?
Oh,
What
how
are-
about this one? I like this one. 30 plus points, 10 fast field goals. I will
this is
say this, Charles. I want to get Charles here. A win against Jets means absolutely nothing. They don't play well. I'll say this to you, Charles. What it means is it's an AFC East win because the Dolphins beat the Patriots, which is huge for the Bills as they get later. That is a division loss. You gotta. I don't care how you squeak by. There's no style points for this. It would be nice to see them play well for the Bills, but you got to win the division games.
I just say, like, this is the time when everybody thinks the Bills are no longer contenders, that they're not there. Everybody's jumping off ship. This is when personally, I'd buy the Bills stock low here because I think that there is so much of this left to go. I think I went back and somebody quote tweeted one of my tweets I had earlier in the year where I said the Bills are real Super Bowl contenders because they don't have any holes on their roster or on their coaching staff. I think there may be a couple of holes on their offensive line, but I still trust their coaching staff a lot to get things right. So this is where I just think the Bills, maybe not this week, maybe they don't blow them out, maybe they just win convincingly, but I think there's a blowout coming. And again, there is a tough stretch of games coming up, Mike, we've talked about.
Yeah, I mean, they've got the Colts and then at New Orleans and then New England. So
I will say too, Dan, you talked about like a convincing win. I don't agree with they just need to win. I think it needs to be a convincing win.
yeah, but they need to win.
Well, yes.
Yeah, but
I want to calm the shaken confidence.
Yeah,
I think I would want to see, because the Bills should win this game, and we've talked about this all along. Like they are the hunt. They are the hunted, and so far this season they've struggled in that role.
Man, when you start looking at the conference, you say to yourself, the whole West, right? The Titans. And by the way, let me tell you right now, I think the Titans are good. Like, I don't think it's any fraud that they're up there. They play really good defense, efficient quarterback. If they get their running back, and I don't even know, is that guaranteed that he can't come back? Or is that they were sort of going to wait to see if Derrick Henry?
Liz Frank usually is done for the season.
But look at who they've beaten, right?
Yeah.
I mean, they beat the Rams, they beat the Bills, they beat the Chiefs,
They
right?
beat the Ravens. Yeah.
They beat I mean, like they have good wins.
All right.
They
Do
have
you
good
think
wins.
it's sustainable though without Henry?
No.
I agree with that. I don't know how
I think what they
long-term
need
sustainable it is.
They need Julio to play better.
Yeah.
They need, if they're going to throw the ball, they should have some guys that can make some plays for them, but they need a little more of that. But and even Cleveland. And by the way, we didn't even talk about it. You know, OBJ goes to the Rams.
Yeah.
We'll see. And Cam in Carolina, we're going to see him in a few weeks.
I loved the Photoshop jersey of Cam. And did you see that? Yeah.
No.
They like had Cam in a Patriots jersey, and then they like painted Photoshop on a Panthers jersey. Like, this is so weird to see. Obviously, internet being the internet, but yeah.
It's a cute story with Cam. I mean, he's not a starting quarterback, but it's a nice story.
A cute story.
Well, he's going back home.
No, I know. I get it. It's
Sign
just
up,
like, man,
home.
talk about an arc of a career. Like,
That's fine. That's
going back home.
Fine.
It's fine. Okay.
All right.
I hope everyone enjoyed this.
Yes. This Zoom meeting. All right.
Stress.
Link back out. I'll send.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you all for joining us. We appreciate it. If you haven't already, please be sure to subscribe. We always are very thankful for that.
Yes.
You three think
Yes.
Yes.
I still do.
I do too.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Thanks for watching.
There we go.